Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So I'm going into this video with the idea of literally getting off a phone call with a friend of mine that was having some velocity issues. He was in a strength program and he was frustrated that he wasn't getting over 82, 83 miles an hour. And so we're having this conversation. He wants to come in, he wants me to work with him. And what I wanted to do to give to you guys to start off your year with is some tips, some drills, some idea, right, on how to increase throwing velocity without having to lift weights. What are some things mechanically, what are some things that we can do, adjustments you can make that will help you become a better pitcher, a stronger pitcher into this new year? So getting into it, the first thing that came to mind was the four-seam grip. We do a lot of training here at RMPD on different grip styles, but sometimes we lose sight of what our bread and butter, what our main focus pitch needs to be is our four-seam grip. What I want you guys to do is start to emulate this, especially in your practice or especially in your pitching repertoire. You should have your four seam. What is the four seam, first of all, right? So we just have the four seams walking the ball. And what I do is put my fingertips just above the seam line here. And then one thing you want to know about is your locking mechanism, which is your thumb. You want to have this, for me, splitting the two fingers here. And then your other fingers kind of rest off to the side as more of a guide on the ball. You want a nice, loose, comfortable grip. You don't want it to be tight and forced. You'll lose spin, you'll lose velocity on it. It might come out more pushier than you want it to be. So you want the ball to be comfortable in your hand. When you go to throw your four seam or any pitch, but we're talking about the four seam, what I try to feel is staying behind the ball or staying in the center and trying to drive through the middle of the ball as best as I can. And then off my release, I try to go with my pointer finger and down, and then drive through it there through my finish or deceleration through my arm. Anyways, what I want you guys to know most of all is the grip itself, right? And then start practicing with your four seam grips especially if you're having velocity issues. Use your four seam. It's a more accurate ball. Work with your four seam is going to be tip number one. Number two on how to gain throwing velocity without lifting a weight, just using the mechanical components of your body, is stride length. So I see a lot of guys throughout the week when we're training or when we're developing that I coach and teach, and especially new guys that come and see me, they have poor stride length issues. So when we're wanting to throw the ball harder, let's take stride length into consideration. Okay, let's talk about stride length. What should that look like? Stride length for me is always taken from a measurement of height, of how tall you are. So if I'm 6'2", my stride length out should mirror at 100% would be 6'2" on how far I can go forward towards the catcher. However, it takes a pretty strong athlete. It takes a pretty disciplined athlete. It takes a good mobility-driven athlete to get to that range of movement, to get to that range of motion. What I say is like 90%. If we can start at 90% and getting there and holding the structure of the mechanics, then I think you're in a good space, right? So the stride length out, what you don't want is if you get too far away and you can't handle it, this back leg is going to collapse into the ground. And that's a velocity loss, right? We want to carry the back leg up and out and over through our stride length. So if you're working with younger athletes, let's start at 80%. Let's see how well they cover that. Then work to 85, work to 90, and so on and so forth into the stride length. How do you measure it? Let's get a ruler out, or let's get a tape measure. Measure your son's height and then lay it on the ground and have him throw a pitch, and the total length of it is from toe. So the rubber to the toe is your stride length, and that will give you how far out he's going with this stride length. You can work the numbers back into your brain to tell you if it's 85 or 80% or whatever the numbers are in his stride length. So tip number 2, work on your stride length. It will help you increase your velocity. It will also help you increase your accuracy on your pitch. Number 3 on throwing velocity without lifting a weight has to do with your glove hand. So we want to get the glove arm involved. Again, in training a lot of athletes a week, I see a lot of different variants. Again, all athletes are unique in style, unique in body type, or unique in the way they position themselves to throw a baseball. So I don't want you to think that it's all one way or that's it. It's driven towards the makeup of the athlete, how much range he can handle, and how good he is in that range, right? So let's talk about the glove arm and getting the glove arm. What does that look like? So if you're coming out, or your athlete's going out to throw in the pitch, and he gets out here and he throws his glove hand out, okay, that's all right, but then if it falls down, like that's a problem, okay? What we want to do is come out, and the way I teach it, or the way I talk about it here at ARM, is I want to drive up through the catcher's mask here, and then I try to grab the catcher's mask and pull him into my chest or my side as tight as possible. So here we're driving our left shoulder back as we're driving our right shoulder through as a right-handed pitcher. Same thing for the left-handed thrower, it's just opposite, right? So when we're driving in or working on our glove hand, drive out, grab the catcher's mask, drive it into your side, and then get your shoulder through your target. This will help you add better rotation, right? Better trunk flexion through the release of your ball. This will add velocity to your pitch using your glove arm in a more efficient, a better manner. Again, no leak left, right? We're not driving out left, we're driving through where we want the ball to go. Right, so we're on tip number 4, throwing velocity without lifting weights, just using the mechanical components. So the number 4 is eliminating the balance, the static balance posture. So if you follow the channel, you follow my tutorials on pitching mechanics, I have balance, direction, and timing literally in my motto. So this is what I teach. However, this is for, or going back to teaching young kids, like 9 or 10-year-olds, where they're first learning the basics, the foundation layer of the movement patterns to pitch a baseball. If we're adding velocity, I'm not worried about throwing velocities with a 9-year-old, right? What I'm worried about is the direction and getting him into the right movements for him to be successful. Let's talk about older guys, right? So if you're watching this, you're a college pitcher or a high school pitcher, and your aspiration is to throw harder this year, okay? So we're going to talk about eliminating the balance point in your throwing motion. What does that look like? So a static balance point would be here in this hold, right? And what ultimately want to do is drive up and forward as our leg comes to lift position. We're carrying that out and away. So essentially, if you just come to a static load position here, you're slowing your mechanics down, right? We want to eliminate the pause to go into our throw. I think there's some advantage if you're a really talented baseball player or baseball pitcher, and you want to work with timing disruption as a pitcher, which is ultimately what you want to do, is the disruption of the hitter's timing. And you can have some pause points and goes, but let's talk about throwing velocity. Move your butt down the mound quicker and stronger and faster, right? Let's eliminate the pause point to go back into our delivery. Number 5 on throwing velocities through mechanical components is going to be your load point, your leg kick as you come up. So sometimes it's advantage us to go faster if we have runners on base, or we're having a hard time keeping ourselves on track to our catcher or where we want to throw the ball. We can go quicker. But on this one, what I'm thinking is, how high should the leg lift be, right? In conjunction with where we want to go. So my thought is this: I like to stay around 50 to 60% of height at max, right? Everything else should be less than that. So 20, 30 degrees of height, or 50, 60 at the most. So you're like lifting up here, and you're at 50%, 60% of your height, I think that's probably the max you want to be, because you're going to be slowing the process down. You're going to be going into a slower tempo or slower rhythm potentially with your throwing mechanics. So essentially, let's work on quickening up a little bit through our load point or from off our load point. And what you want to do is be in an athletic stance as well, okay? If you're in an unathletic stance that's really tight and pinched off, you're probably not going to be getting where we need to be at the right time in the right state and the right space, right? So get in an athletic stance, and when you go to your load point, find out your height. Okay, I can work at 30, I can work at 40, 50, okay, 60, and I'm still good to go out. So you got to find out how strong you are with your movement paths and how much you can handle in your load height, right, for velocity. So let's work on being a little bit quicker and a little bit shallower with our load points. No 100% load points, okay, guys? Okay, number six, throwing velocity increases through mechanical components of body makeup, right? Let's talk about shoulder flexion and elbow flexion into external rotation, right? And what essentially I'm talking about is the layback degree that we have through our shoulder and our arm here. What is it?
No, move this way a little bit. There you go.
What's wrong?
That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm talking about is the layback of my shoulder, of my arm here, right? And sorry, I have to take a pause because the camera guy's messing with me, okay? So like, we'll just take a second and laugh it off. It's not funny about your layback. It's just about positioning, okay? Anyways, moving on, the layback of our shoulder, right? So if you're not very flexible here, like right now, my external rotation kind of sucks, but I'm old, so I get some grace on this. Things you can do to work on that, just if you're by yourself, is kind of bring the arm forward in an L position, right? Close it, and then bring this one under, and then try to rotate it back or tug it back a little bit, stretch it out. And the more freedom of range your rotator cuff muscles have, right, then the better, more range of motion you're going to have and flexibility you're going to have to get deeper ranges to throw better from. So that tip, let's work on flexibility, not just through the shoulder, even though that's the main point, but through all your body, right? Work on being more flexible lower half and more flexible on your upper half. Finally, tip number 7 on our velocity gains, stronger through our throw, just using our body versus having to lift a bunch of weights, right? Number 7 is keeping your weight back, keeping your head back longer through your landing point down the mound, right? What does that look like if we're on the mound? And we're going to pitch the ball, right? We're adding 80 pounds of force as we go forward towards the catcher. We want to stay in our back hip on our approach to the catcher, keeping our head back behind our front hip. We're going to land, and then we're going to drive forward here, right? Which in getting stronger into the front hip, this is a second component of it, but essentially you want to throw the ball harder. You'll drive into the ground and then drive into your lead leg blocking here, chest elevated, and then go through your throw. But the point is to keep your head back and your weight back longer through your landing point of your mechanics. This will help you increase internal ranges and stay behind your pitch better and give you an added velocity advantage on your pitch. Okay, number 8, throwing velocity without having to lift a bunch of weights. This one goes in a pair of number 7, where we were staying back a little bit stronger. It's don't rush your shoulders down the mound, right? What does that look like? If you get up to your load point and you start to dip your shoulders down, and then you land here, all your energy is going down into the ground, right? And we need our energy, we need our kinetic chain to go through the catcher, not into the ground, right? And so we want to stay back. Again, work on more rotational features here from our back hip, driving through the catcher. So eliminate rushing forward. And then also, it would be a velocity loss for you to drag your arm through. So if you're rushing forward, chances are the arm's behind and can't catch up very well. It's a very poor throwing posture to be in, especially as a baseball pitcher. If you're doing this, or your athlete's doing this, I invite you to correct them on that. So we want to stay back in a better neutral stance, more back postured stance through our throwing motion. Number 9 on throwing velocity without having to lift weights. Number 9, as we go into this, has to do with the lead leg blocking position. What does that mean? As we go forward and we go into our landing point and we go into rotating the hips forward, we want to work that in conjunction with bringing our hip back and our legs straight into a locked position, and then extend the release height of the ball out to the catcher better. A couple of problems you could have is, one would be getting there too early. So if you get out and you're pole vaulting over, that's the wrong thing to do. You want to land in a flex position, in about a 120 position on your front leg, and as you're rotating through, that's when we drive up and over here. Remember, ball height release, again, is also a velocity tip. That's just an extra one. Should be around head height. If you're doing video analysis and I see a lot of release points that are way back up here on release points, okay? And then spun around. We really want to see that ball getting out front of your front foot, hopefully 2, 3, 6 inches as far as you can get it through the release point of it here. So adding leverage to the ball, pulling down on the ball, is going to help you add velocity on your pitch. Number 10, winding down. This is the final tip on throwing velocity for you guys this year. Has to do with your chest position. Ideally, what we want to do is think about being an arched back position. So we just talked about the lead leg positioning here as it comes back. Now, as you block this, what you don't want to do is cup your back here to throw. You want to bring your chest through the catcher in a stronger position. We do that by arching our back through our throw. So we're essentially almost throwing our chest at our catcher and helping us complete the pitch over our front leg. So tip number 10 is be better about arching your back and bringing your chest up over your front leg to throw the ball stronger. It's a stronger position to throw from. So as we end this, or I close this out, listen, if you're interested in supporting me or supporting the channel and the work that I do here at Arm Pitching Develop in delivering you these tips and drills and exercises and workouts, I encourage you to hit the thumbs up, as it helps bring YouTube to life to the channel, right? It brings more people in, the more engagement there is with the video. So please, I implore you to hit the like button for me. And then if you like the videos we shoot, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out on any more tips, drills, exercises, or workouts. There's a link in our description that goes to some of our books. One of them is our throwing velocity manual or book or program. I would invite you to go into there, click on it, take a look, read about it. And if it's for you, I have it on sale at the moment. I think it's like half off or something. I don't really remember. It's a good program. It has videos, links with all the workouts, with all the exercises, with all the schematics of the program laid out, has videos with them. So it's easy to manage, easy to get through. As you enter into your preseason and you want to get stronger and you want to throw the ball better, maybe you want to invite yourself to purchase that program. I don't know. So anyways, thank you guys. I appreciate you. And until I shoot the next one, I'll see you guys next time.